Shalom, Israel. I know it's been a minute, but I'm back again. Uh, Topic at hand is an experience I had with one of my professors in the science class I have to take. He starts at the science class first week or two, uh, asking us about. Uh, he asked for the definition of science and he asked for the definition of religion, and he was comparing the two. And of course, most people say science. You test this, test that, hypotheses and theories and all this other stuff. You observe stuff you can feel with your senses and test in the natural world. Then he asked the definition of religion. Most people said belief in a higher being that orders their way of life and conducts their behavior, blah, 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 something like that, right? Uh, and then he asked, what's the difference between the two? And of course, uh, he was getting at, I guess that kind of be a loaded question, but whatever he was getting at, his point was trying to make that religion is fundamentally different from science because you can test science, but you can't test religion because religion is grounded in faith, which is belief in things that you can't see. So he was trying to say, he asked the question, can you test religion or can you test faith? And everybody else said no. I raised my hand and said yes. He said, can you test the miracle? I said yes. But he tried to hone in on a specific miracle, but and just ignored me, which is fine. So he said, at its core, religion is untestable. And so I started thinking about this. I was like, that used to make sense to me. And that's actually where a lot of the debate between science and religion uh, takes off. Is because a lot of times science will say, well, we have evidence for what we say, therefore we believe it. Religion says, well, we believe this because we were taught this. Pretty much. It's pretty much what it is. We think about this. Or, I pray to this being. So he's real. Or she's real. It's real. But when I was a Christian, I started thinking I couldn't really contend with the evidence that science had, and so I actually started taking philosophy classes to learn how to form argument and use logic and reason to contend for the faith as much as I, foolishly thinking I'm doing what I should be doing, um, to contend for the faith. And I told some brothers some saints this past Sabbath, I'm actually glad. I think, I was bad at philosophy. I really was. For some reason, I just wasn't good at it. I don't know if it was, the inner Hebrew that Yahweh was reserving for himself, just wasn't going to have any part of it. But pretty much everything else, I could pretty much learn everything else. Put some effort to it, and it would click. This stuff just didn't click. It just did not click. Well, I'm grateful for it. But I did remember learning something in there that did click, and it made sense after the fact. Once my mind started to be renewed and transformed. At the time, it was still just dead weight up there. But my thought was that the concepts in philosophy, um, the questions of philosophy never change. I actually learned this from my professor because I was struggling with it, and I asked her for help. And she said that because I was trying to figure out what do we do with this stuff. And she said the questions of philosophy never change. The answers just get more complicated. Essentially indicating that all they do is just talk about and make the answers more complicated. Spinning around in circles on nothing. And so at that moment I stopped taking those classes. I couldn't take it anymore. But my whole point was that I did learn something in there. And it popped back into my mind when I started pondering what my professor had said. Because he's right. Religion cannot be tested. You cannot test religion. It's impossible. You can't test it. Okay? You can't prove it using things in the natural or using the five senses. You can't prove it. But you can prove science. I know there's pseudoscience and stuff, but for the most part, just going on the overall basis and definition of science. It is things that are testable, and you perform tests and experiments. So then I started thinking, well, what does the book say about it? So then I looked in the book for the word science. Only found it twice in Daniel 1:4, when it's talking about the character of the cream of the crop of the people that the Babylonians took out. Says, children in whom was no blemish, but well favored and skillful in all wisdom, and cunning in knowledge, and understanding science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace. Okay, and whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans. So you see, it says that they had understanding in science. If you look up that word, it's Hebrews 40:93, and it means knowledge, thought, mind, thought, place of knowledge. That's from the Brown Driver Briggs. But the ancient Hebrew lexicon, it's a lot more specific and precise. It says, let me just a second. Yeah. It says, through the eyes one experiences his world and learns from it. Because knowledge is a picture of a door. It's the picture of the eye. Combine these pictures mean the door of the eye. The eye is the window into the man's very being. Experience is gained through visual observation. Knowledge is achieved through these experiences. Okay? To have an intimate relationship with another person, an idea, or an experience. All right? So, giving a little example right there to clear it up. Say if somebody taught you, the pastor said it in one of his videos. He said, if you're paying attention and you're being attentive, if you have your undivided focus on the task at hand, and he shows you how to do something, he should never have to show you how to do it again. Because if you were being attentive and focused, you should know how to do it from the visual observation and the learning process by experience of putting your hand to it and doing it yourself, especially if you have some back knowledge or foreknowledge of that of that task at hand. So that would be this type of experience. Your eyes view it and you see it, and it's a visual observation, but it's something that you're experiencing through actual doing it. All right. So then the other verse that pops up in is 1 Timothy 6:20. It says, O Timothy, keep that which is committed to thy trust, avoiding profane and vain babblings and oppositions of science, falsely so called. Okay, so false oppositions of science, falsely so called. And that word science there is Greek 1108, coming from the word gnosis. The pastors talked about that quite a bit. Gnosticism. But check out the definition from the Greek of the same word. It says knowledge signifies, in general, intelligence or understanding. And some other definitions: moral wisdom, such as is seen in right living; the general knowledge of Christian religion; the deeper, more perfect, and enlarged knowledge of this religion, such as belongs to the more advanced, especially of things lawful and unlawful for Christians. Now, comparing that one to the first one, it's a lot more vague. It's much more ambiguous and just muddled. You can't really get a clear example out of that. You'd have to try to ponder on it, which at that point you would be exercising abstract thought and not concrete thought, as in the first example, because we know Hebrew is concrete, right? So I'm still thinking about this thing my professor said, because back in the day, I recognized it, but I didn't know that that was the main issue with why I went the way I went. That science has evidence, even if the evidence is messed up and it's incorrect or whatever you want to say. It doesn't makes no difference to me. But they still have evidence. Religion doesn't have evidence. And I thank God for taking us out of religion, restoring us unto this Hebraic way, this Hebraic walk, this Eastern concrete thought pattern that we were striving for, and have to break away this Gentile abstract nature, this mentalistic nature from us. More and more I've been doing that. And my professor said it. That's why I said, yeah, you can test faith. Because I've tested it. David even said, oh, taste and see that Yahweh is good. So, say if my wife comes up and she's cooking something. She says, hey, honey, how does this taste? I'm going to taste and see if it's good. If she needed to add salt, if she needed to water it down, or whatever it is you got to do, or she burnt it, or it needs to cook a little longer, whatever it is. Because I tasted, I observed, I tested, I experienced what that food tastes like. I could discern what it needed or if it was good. And so let's, say I tasted, man, yeah, that's real good, baby. That's real good. Okay. She can go on about her way. I can go on about my way. Because of the experience. She knows that it's good because I know that it's good because I had the experience and I told her. All right. Religion, abstract, Greek thought, Western thought teaches. You ever had one of the classes? Those of you who were in public school, I thank y'all for the generation coming behind us that won't have to deal with that. But do you remember any time they had what they call that? I forgot what it's called. It might not have been called anything. But in science, use your imagination. Any had teachers tell you that use your imagination. All right. So, say if I'm supposed to imagine my wife giving me a spoon to taste some sauce she made or something, and I'm supposed to tell her what's wrong with it, or what does it need, or if it's good or not. How the hell would I possibly know that? How could I possibly know that just by thinking about it? Because whichever way I wanted to think, that's how it would be. In my head, though, it's not coming out of the confines of my mind. There's no spoon, there's no salt. She's not even there cooking. So how could I do that? You can't. And that's what religion does. You can't test it. And that's why science can mock and ridicule religion. Because religion is foolishness. Paul instructed Timothy to keep that which was committed to his trust. And it says, avoid profane and vain babblings and oppositions of science, falsely so called, or oppositions of false knowledge, oppositions of false science. Okay, so that's religion, right? So check this out. Since we're talking about testing using concrete thought pattern, this is the basis of science. Remember when I said the one thing I learned from philosophy that is actually probably the only concrete thing in philosophy comes from, first, the official definition of science would be the intellectual and practical activity encompassing the systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation and experiment, aka doing something. Hey, let's go out and take some rock samples. Hey, let's go watch that volcano. Hey, let's go look at that tornado and observe what's happening to it. Oh, snap, it's tearing up the ground. Well, we know what those things do now through experience. So this thought pattern comes from, or not the thought pattern, but this thought pattern in philosophy is called empiricism. It's the view that all concepts originate in experience, that all concepts are about or applicable to things that can be experienced, or all acceptable beliefs or propositions are only justifiable or knowable through experience. Since it derives from the ancient Greek word empiria, meaning experience. And there's some other Latin words and stuff that it's based on. But the main thing is that beliefs or propositions are knowable only on the basis of experience and not just rationality or thinking or abstraction. And it says that empiricism is the philosophy of science which emphasizes evidence, especially as discovered in experiments. All right, we just read that. It is a fundamental part of the scientific method that all hypotheses and theories must be tested against observations of the natural world rather than testing solely on reasoning, intuition, or revelation. Okay? So, boom. It's evidence, experiments, observations, testing, seeing things, the five senses, empirical, versus reasoning, intuition, revelation, or just simple belief, simple mental assent, agreeing to something. But that's not what our book is about, right? So and please bear with me, because this is partly thanking Yahweh for the mind change that He has done in me, but also just really seeing how messed up this system has got us. Because in actuality, the religion is the false science. The religion is the false knowledge. And I can stand toe to toe with the greatest scientists in the world because of the experience that I've had. Because I know that this book is real because I've tested it, I've observed it. And a lot of things in science, if you continually run the same experiment over and over and over and over and over again, you keep getting the same result. Eventually, whatever it is that conclusion is, that will become law, like the law of gravity, or the law of conservation of energy, or the law of conservation of mass. They keep testing it to prove it wrong, but it keeps being proven right. And so at some point, they just essentially stop testing it because, like, I mean, if I throw something up, it's going to come down. We've done it 16 million times. It's going to come down. Okay. So they just stop testing it. It's the same way in this faith and in this book, this real, true Hebrew book, and this real, true Hebraic faith, this inheritance that Yahweh has given His people. Because He's only ever dealt with the Israelites. Other people can come in, but in their function, they become Israelites. So He's only ever dealt with us. So it's an inheritance. It's not a religion. It's like if I pass down, a deed or a stock portfolio or something down to my son. It's not, oh, son, start a new religion and a doctrine on this and indoctrinate and brainwash the entire world about this portfolio that I give you. No, son, this belongs to you. This is an inheritance. So it's different from religion because it's real. It's concrete. You can test it. And I've tested it. My son's living proof that Yah is real because my wife's womb was barren. No amount of medicine or science or anything did it except for the blood of Jesus Christ and the power of the Holy Spirit. I trusted and believed. He said that healing is the children's bread and that signs and wonders would follow us. So I tested and I tried him at his word. All right, we're going to see if this is going to work this time. So, if I threw some up right now, we all know it's coming right back down to my hand. So I'm saying, okay, let me test this. Lay hands on my wife, command healing in the name of Jesus Christ through the power of the Holy Spirit. Thank y'all. 2 years later, got a big, healthy boy. And I thank y'all he's going to be raised, knowing the scriptures from his youth up. But every time I look at him running around, smiling, happy, eating, doing whatever he's doing, getting into trouble, smashing stuff, playing with bugs, all kind of stuff, I know that boy is real. You can't tell me he's not. All right, the boy's getting heavy. You can't tell me he's not real. And so, because I have the observation, the experience, and the knowledge to see that he's real, I know that my Yah is real. Because that was the only product, that was the product of faith in Yah and exercising that faith in Him. I remember one time it happened twice actually. There was a storm coming. It was late at night, maybe 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And I woke up either to use the bathroom or I woke up by the storm. I don't remember. But the storm was bad. It was a bad thunderstorm. And we didn't have a few bad ones. But this one was, man, it was something else about this. And I felt a sense of danger in my spirit towards this storm. I was like, man, something ain't right about this thing. And so I started rebuking it. I commanded it to leave. I kid you not, within 1 minute, that sucker was gone. Because before I did it, it popped in my mind what Jesus did. And when He turned to the disciples, He said, why were ye afraid? Or ye have little faith? Forgive me if I'm not quoting that exactly. But His thing was He had the faith to do it, and they were fearful and wanted Him to save them. And so I remembered and I decided, I tested, I believed Him to not be fearful of that storm. It was my time to go. I can't do anything about it at that time. Because it was getting bad. I said, I'm going to try Him at His word. The storm left. And another time when we were driving, like I had the windshield wipers on full blast and I couldn't see nothing. So I pulled over. We started rebuking that storm, and it left. We kept on driving. And so I thank y'all that I do have some testimonies that I can give of his goodness, of his power, of his might to prove that he is real. Religion can't do that because they try to do everything based on their own mind. And that's it. It's just, it stays within the confines of their minds. It's not real. All right? So I kept thinking about it. I'm like, man, we really can't prove this book because it's concrete. I think Brother Greg, you might have said it, man. I think it was like, yeah, Last Tabernacles, I think. Yeah. Yeah, man, if you don't understand agriculture and marriage, you're not going to understand this book. And it's just the truth. Those are two concrete things. If you don't understand those, you're not going to understand this book. And I remember reading, certain things like, who was he talking to? If I'm not mistaken, he was talking to the prophet Isaiah. Where he said, what do you see? And he said, an almond tree. And I remember reading that before. Or if it's another prophet. I'm going right over my Christian head, my Gentile head. Not knowing that the almond tree blooms first. When the crops start to come in and plants start to bloom again after the dead season, almond trees bloom first. And so he was saying that he was going to execute judgment on Judah speedily. And he used the concrete example of an almond tree because almond trees bloom first. So once I started reading that and understanding that and looking up the concrete examples, your mind knows exactly where to go. You have the perfect image and the perfect actual example to see those things. Whereas before it was just mental assent and you didn't understand nothing. And so the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, man, Yah said to put him in remembrance of his word, that he would not alter or change anything that's gone out of his lips. That he changes not, therefore us, the sons of Jacob, are not consumed. So if that's the case, then we have the experience. I had a professor tell me last semester, he asked, what if the book of Luke was, they found out 100% definitively that the book of Luke was added hundreds of years after, the Gospel of Luke was added 100 years after the other Gospels. Would you still read it and believe it? And people in the class were like, yeah. No, well, if they say it's not in there, then I guess it's not in there. I'm like, yeah, I done what that book has commanded me to do. So I didn't say this. I'm still respectful because he's the real old man. But in reality, I don't give a shit what no damn Bible scholar or parent Bible scholar say. I've done what that book told his people to do. So I don't care what you say. It got to be real because I tried it and it worked and I got the experience. And as our pastor teaches us, our teacher, those with the argument are at the mercy of those with the experience. You can't tell me nothing after I've seen it. Like that man, Pastor talked about it last Sabbath. And that man who Peter and them did that miracle for in Acts 4. He was over 40 years old. Had that stuff from his youth up, from birth up. Everybody knew him. And the Pharisees, said that they couldn't deny it because everybody knew that this is a mighty work done by Yah. Nah, man, you can't deny it. I can see the Pharisees now trying to deny it in front of the people, and the people get pissed off. Nah, especially as Hebrews, nah, nigga, I know what I saw. I know what I saw. I saw him get up and walk. So So when I started thinking about that, I got peace upon me in that class, and this was weeks ago. But that class, you agree quickly with the adversary. They say the Earth is 13 billion years old. All right, man, that's cool. Okay. Makes no difference to me. It has no bearing on my salvation. I'm trying to go ahead. I don't care what's behind me. All right. So, I learned wisdom in not being foolish like I was in Christianity. To have zeal, but have it according to knowledge. Because in Christianity, because of the hypocrisy in me and the lack of substance in me, I would see the evidence the science would bring forth as a personal attack. Yet now, knowing that I do have some substance in me, and I'm striving for more substance, that the evidence and the substance, the observations, the experiences, the empiricism that I have, that I hold dear with me, it can't compare to the stuff that they bring against that, because I got the experience to back it up. So I no longer see it as a threat. I just kick it to the curb, agree with my adversary quickly, and going about my way, because I know that Yah is real. I know that my faith is real, and I know my history and my heritage that the Father has restored unto me. Whereas before, I couldn't see that in Christianity because I was blinded. I had that strong delusion on me. I was blinded to that crap because it's an abstract Gentile culture. So my overall point is, for anybody, whoever you may be talking to, especially, for topics like, I guess this could go into it, anything concrete, really, the dietary law. Christians like arguing that, and they like philosophizing that. But that's concrete. And science backs that up. That these animals are more detrimental to your health than the animals on the clean side of the dietary law. So now we have science backing up what our book says, but then religion telling people they can do whatever the hell they want. And because religion is separate from any consequences, religion is separate from reality. It's not grounded in reality. They are okay and have deceived themselves into thinking that they are okay doing contrary to the very book that claimed that represents them. And so that's why science looks at religion and mocks it. Now, they're not without excuse at all. Even Wisdom of Solomon in the Apocrypha talks about it in chapter 13. Surely vain are all men by nature. Those men who could see and obtain. Matter of fact, let me get that because I love that one. Let me get that because I just absolutely love that. Surely vain are all men by nature, who are ignorant of Yah, and cannot out of the good things that are seen know him that is. Neither by considering the works did they acknowledge the workmaster, but deemed either fire or wind or the swift air, or the circle of the stars, or the violent water, or the lights of heaven to be the gods which govern the world, with whose beauty if they being delighted took them to be gods. Let them know how much better the master of them is, for the first author of beauty hath created them. But if they were astonished at their power and virtue, let them understand by them how much mightier he is that made them. For by the greatness and the beauty of the creatures, proportionably the maker of them is seen. But yet for this they are the less to be blamed, for they peradventure err, seeking Yah and desirous to find him. For being conversant in his works, they search him diligently, and believe their sight, because the things are beautiful that are seen. Howbeit neither are they to be pardoned. For if they were able to know so much that they could aim at the world, how did they not sooner find out the master thereof? But miserable are they, and in dead things is their hope, who called them gods, which are the works of men's hands, gold and silver to show art and the resemblances of beasts, or stone good for nothing, and the work of an ancient hand. So science isn't to be pardoned either. If they were so wise in seeing these things, and Pastor hinted on it during scripture study, just for the little things Yah does, and we take for granted. The world, they'll see all these things of scientists with the doctors and everything. They'll see all these things and be able to test all this stuff and observe all this stuff. And it says, how were you able to aim at all this stuff and to know all this stuff? Yet how were you not sooner able to find out the maker of them? Okay? So they're not to be pardoned either, but it's this experience that's going to get us into this kingdom. Because it's through the experience that we know that Yah is real. It builds up our faith. The testing and the trial of our faith. That's what it does. It produces that experience and that patience. It produces that maturity based on the things that we have seen. because uh, it, it says in Mark, uh, the 16th chapter, that these signs would follow them that believe, and that as they would go preaching, they'd go preaching, and guess what? Signs would follow them, confirming the word that they just got done preaching. What happens in Christianity? Gums yapping, and everybody goes on to the Sunday pig roast. That's why people look at Christians, look at religion, period, and be like, nah, I don't want that. Which is part of Satan's design, his deception. But those of us whose Yahweh, we have the honor and the privilege of being enlightened and knowing through experience, not just thinking about it, actually tasting and seeing, actually putting him in remembrance of his word, actually trying him at the things he said he would do for us. We're blessed because we do. James 1:22, but be ye doers of the word, not hearers only, deceiving your own selves. And that's exactly what Christians have done. For if any be a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like unto a man beholding his natural face in a glass. For he beholdeth himself, and goeth his way, and straightway forgetteth what manner of man he was. But whoso looketh into the perfect law of liberty, and continueth therein, he being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this man shall be blessed in his deed. Book tells us we love not only in word, but in deed. We have to do. I'm so blessed and so thankful that Yahweh has showed us this, and he simplified it. Because religion is so abstract that they have to, by nature, complicate everything to rationalize it just so that they can sleep at night. That's why it says that they wrest the scriptures to their own destruction. Because they do all this eloquence and all this speaking, and yet they got nothing. They got no fruit. The trees are bare. The trees are getting chopped down and thrown into the fire already. Because it just, there's nothing on them. And yet us, which Yahweh has called, he's redeemed, he's sanctified, he's saved, he's separated from out of the world, even though we were scattered, as we're becoming more and more little sanctuaries unto him. We got this. We have the truth. We have the spirit and we have the truth. We have the experience to back up what we profess. Elder Mitchell said it when he gave his message on death. He said, Pastor's the only man I know that wants to go home. He's the only man I know that is ready to depart. And must mean he knows somebody and knows something. He must be in a really good place with the Creator to be ready, willing, and looking forward to longingly to go on back home. And I'll be the first one, man, I ain't there yet. But he's laid a good blueprint to mark him and to see that at the end of that man's way, there's peace and there's life. So I'm following in his vein, but I'm not there yet. I'll be the first to admit I am long, long way from that. But I see that it can be done. So now, by his experience, by the deeds I see him doing, it builds up my faith to know this is possible. This can be done. This is being done. No excuses. Religion, that's all they got is excuses. And so, I'll sum it up with this. Those Hebrew Israelites, the true people of Yah, who worship him in spirit and in truth, who keep the commandments and the faith of Jesus Christ, are more scientific than even the scientists of this world. If you want to think about it like that. Because it's easy to go back to the example my wife had. All right, using my wife. It's easy for me to taste something that my wife is cooking, taste to see if it's good. Especially if something she didn't already cook before. I know it's going to be good. Right? It's easy to do that. It's easy for a scientist to go, see a volcano explode rock falls and he picks it up. Oh yeah, this came from a volcano. It's easy to do that in the natural. But just as Jesus said to the disciples, he said many prophets and kings and priests have desired to see and hear the things that your eyes see and your ears hear. And you're blessed for that. But blessed are those whose eyes have not seen, nor have their ears heard, and yet they still believe. And they believe through doing. So I thank y'all that we are blessed, because science focuses on the things they can manipulate. And even at that, they can't manipulate it. How foolish people when they're chasing a tornado. They don't know if that tornado will turn around and kill them. But they chase the natural. They focus on the natural, the things that they can see, stuff that they can touch, they can handle, they can break with hammers, and they can put in furnaces, and they can cut with saws and stuff. They focus on those things they can produce in the laboratory. But we focus on the supernatural, because that's where the battle lies, and that's where our strength lies. Not in this wicked, defiled temple. This terrible flesh that's corrupt, and it's lust, and full of covetousness and frivolity and lasciviousness. It's just wicked as hell. Deceitful, dark, black heart. This mess, this old man that we have to live in. You can't trust this natural stuff. But the supernatural, the spirit realm, communing with the Holy One of Israel, that's what we can trust in. And that's what, as we as Hebrews will trust in. So take heart, Israel. You a scientist. Because you focus on the knowledge through observation and experience. And the more you increase in knowledge and understanding, as Yahweh said, he would give us pastors that would feed us with knowledge through experience and understanding through experience. That's according to his will. Start walking around, get a t-shirt. I'm a Hebrew scientist. Shalom, bless y'all.